Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Samantha Anderson. I am a freelance artist and teacher hoping to inspire creativity. If you would like more videos like these, please take a second to like and subscribe down below. It really helps in the algorithm of YouTube to help get my videos seen to more people. If you want to receive notifications of when I go live, please make sure to hit the bell and choose all notifications. If you have any questions during or after the class, make sure to pop a comment down below and I will answer it as soon as I can. If interested in learning more about my classes, please follow me on Facebook and Instagram. And feel free to check me out on Patreon, where I teach exclusive classes to those who support me. In Patreon, I also give traceables for all of my live classes, including this one. Lastly, if you would like to share your work after class with me and others who painted along with us, please head over to Facebook, as I have an artist community where you can share your finished painting with us. I'll leave links for all of that in the description box below. Thanks for joining me, and let's get started. Hi everyone, welcome back to another live tutorial over here on YouTube. I am excited for this one. I always love starry nights and doing trees. If you're interested in other tree tutorials, I do have a few on my YouTube channel, so make sure to go check those out as well. But for today, we are doing this purple galaxy. And yeah, let's go ahead and just get started. So I'm going to go over some supplies, and then we will get straight to painting, okay? So today, just like any other class, I do have a traceable available in my Patreon. I will not be using a traceable this time. I tend to like to freehand when I am doing more nature things, naturistic paintings. So if you would like to follow along with me, that is totally fine. If not, if you're a person who likes to have a little bit more guidance when it comes to painting, maybe a blank canvas can maybe scare you and you would like to have some more guidance in placement and where to put things, then this traceable is for you. It's in the $5 tier, and you'll also get access to literally every single traceable that I've ever done for my live tutorials over on YouTube. So if that interests you, if you've been looking at my stuff for a while and maybe you want a traceable for a different class, you can go in there for this traceable, grab the other traceable too, and then you can only stay for the couple days since it is near the end of the month. But if you would like to stay there for next month, we have some other fun tutorials that are coming up as well. So feel free to stay as long as you like. You can support that way if you're just wanting to support the channel. It does help me keep these classes for free. But yeah, that's pretty much, so I have the traceable. I will be using an 11 by 14 stretched canvas today. I do that pretty much for all of my for my YouTube tutorials, and most of my classes actually I feel like are, if it's not like a specialized class, it's an 11 by 14. But for the traceable, I do have a 9 by 12 as well as an 11 by 14 traceable. And if you want a different size traceable, as a patron, you're allowed to post on or comment on that post and say, hey, I'm using a larger or a smaller canvas. Can I have a different size traceable? And I can just whip one up really quickly with the original traceable file that I have, upload it to that post, and then it's available for anyone who wants to use it. So that's kind of a little perk you get as a patron. You get to kind of customize your traceable. I've had a few people comment and ask for larger traceables on some of the more detailed, like cobalt classes and things like that. They wanted to have a 16 by 20, and so I just, cropped it and made it bigger, blew it up. But yeah, so 11 by 14 stretched canvas. I have 2 waters, paper towel, palette. I also have a palette knife for mixing, and this is going to be really important for the background because there is a gradient of colors. I tend to always pre-mix my colors so that I can just grab and go, and I'm not trying to mix while I'm painting because acrylics dry fast. So if you're painting the background and things are drying on you, you're not going to get that smooth gradient that you're hoping for. So I highly recommend you have some sort of palette where you can pre-mix your colors. I use a palette knife so that I don't have wear and tear on I have less wear and tear on my brushes. I keep my water clean, as well as I don't have to rinse out my brush every single time that I'm trying to mix a new color. And it keeps my brushes clean. So there's a whole lot of pros to being able to pre-mix your colors with a palette knife. Highly suggest it. I will never go back. Other tools that you might need is a toothbrush. If you don't have a toothbrush, like an art toothbrush, that is totally fine. I tend to like to use a toothbrush because I get really small specks and stars with it, and it's a little bit more consistent. When I was using you can use a old frayed brush or a stippler brush, or anything that has maybe a hog bristle, or that's this fan brush has a hog bristle, so it just means that the bristles are a little bit more stiff and tend to flick better. This one ends up not flicking as well, and sometimes you get like streaks of paint if your consistency isn't correct. We'll go over the different consistencies, but I've just found that a toothbrush, the short, stiff bristles of a toothbrush end up giving me the most consistent stars in my starry nights. And you can always go back and we'll be doing this as well, you can always go back for the larger stars to dip the back of a small handle of your brush, and you can do the small, like the bigger stars there. But for all the smaller stars, the toothbrush is just the more consistent one for me, so that's what I like using. But you can totally get away with using other brushes. Whatever your favorite brush is for stars, feel free to use that. For our trees, we're going to be using a combination of really whatever you want. I tend to have a specific filbert brush that gives me like the best result for these type of trees. I call them Bob Ross trees. If you grew up on Bob Ross, they're happy trees. But I tend to use a kind of thicker filbert. And I can show you up close what it does. But there's also other options that you can use a small fan brush if you want. I have an even smaller one that sometimes I like to use. So it's really up to you. I would suggest using a hog bristle or other stiff bristle brush for your fan brushes, because something like a nylon one that's very flimsy, the heavy paint and water is just going to clump together and it's not going to fan out like you wish it would. So I really recommend getting some type of hog bristle or stiff bristle fan brush if you're choosing to use a fan brush, because the nylons, they just don't work the same. They don't really fan out like you feel like they should. And all of the supplies that I use are in my Amazon shop. So if you feel like you don't have what you need to create this painting, feel free to go down below in the description of this event, whether on YouTube, Facebook, wherever it is. I do have an Amazon link that goes to my shop that has all the recommended supplies that either are close to or the exact thing that I use for all of my classes. So that's a really useful tool for you. I have my teacher recommended favorites, and then I also have other things in there that I recommend having on hand, including sponges, palette knives, certain brushes, and certain paints. As well as I do have the palette knife linked in there as well, or the palette knife and the palette. Other brushes that you're gonna need, I have just my go-to brushes. And if you've been painting with me for any amount of time, you'll probably have these memorized by now. But I have a large 3/4 inch filbert. I have a different filbert, a smaller filbert, and this one is different from my tree one. They are different in how one's a little bit longer and thicker, and so they give a different result when I am painting. So keep in mind that even though you might be using a small filbert for the trees, when I'm using it, your brush specifically might have a different result than mine. So even with these, there's not much different. One's a little bit longer and one's a little bit smaller, but they do have different results. So keep that in mind if your brush isn't coming out with the same technique or same result as mine. Try a different brush and play with it. Figure out which one has the best result for what you're trying to do. So that is that. So I have my 2 filbert brushes, and then I have a myriad of round and liner brushes. So I have a medium round brush. You'll notice that I call this my cloud brush, my texture brush, my dry brushing brush, because I will use it to just add little bits of color, and I'll often do circles, and you'll notice that this brush is very frayed. Like, I would not use this to do detail. It's very frayed, but that's the point of it, is that it has that texture to it. And it allows me to kind of do whatever I want with it and not be worried about ruining the brush, because it's the only brush that I do that with. And I really try to remember not to do that with my other round brushes. And then I have 2 smaller round brushes. One is pointed, one is round. I use them for different things. And then I have a liner brush. I don't know how much liner brush work we will do. There's a couple trees in here that we might use it for. But again, that's totally up to you. If you don't have a liner brush pack, I don't think it's necessary for this class, but I do highly recommend having one, because even this cheap $10 pack, I think it came with like 5 or 6 brushes, I've had for years, and it's been amazing. They're one of my favorite brushes to use when I'm doing detail work. Okay, so those are the brushes. I think I mentioned everything else with the exception of my paint. So let's go over paint colors. I have off camera, because they're in the bigger paint bottles, I have my white, my raw umber, which is brown, and then my black. Those are the 3 colors that I use the most, so I have, big bottles of them. Again, that's white, brown, and black. That's the raw umber. And then I have a couple other colors in here. I have my violet, which is really dark. It looks almost black, but it's purple. It's very, very dark purple. I have a pink, and then I have my yellow. Now, don't be confused by the bottles. These are all from Hippie Crafter Acrylics. They are an amazing company, and they've given me free paints to teach with, and I like them just as much as any other professional acrylics. I would vouch for them. They're a super nice company. But don't be confused by the bottles. These are not craft acrylics. These are full body, thick acrylic paints. So if you're looking for paints, make sure that they're thick, and don't be confused when your craft acrylics are, but it's in the bottle. But these are full body acrylics, not soft body acrylics. That you normally find in the bottles. I do enjoy having the bottles, because when I push out too much paint, I'm able to easily just open it up and put it back. I can't really do that with these because the holes are so small. So I actually really enjoy having the bottles, and they're super easy to refill if I have bigger bottles to pull from. So that's a perk of having the bottles. But that being said, they are not craft acrylics. They are full body acrylics. So again, I have my violet. This one is rose, so it's just like a magenta color, and then a medium yellow. And then I also have a red on hand, just in case we need to play with the colors and to get that gradient. So those are the colors I have on hand. I think everything else is going to be made from those colors, so I don't have any blues or anything like that. It's just these colors. I'm really excited for this color palette because it's so like pretty, but I feel like once we start making these colors, we're gonna be like, what are we doing? These colors are so like dull, but it's gonna come out really, really pretty. Okay, that is pretty much it. I want to go over announcements and Patreon stuff after we do the first coat while it's drying, just so we can make the best use of our time. So stay tuned for that. I'm really excited to share our seaside cliffs painting because we just finished that yesterday. So stay tuned for that. Let's go ahead and get out our paints, and so we can get started. All right, so I'm gonna grab, let's see, we're gonna do a wash of purple. And when I say purple, I mean like the main sky purple, as well as that little bit of orange. And we're gonna do 2 coats of it. I find that it's really, really helpful to do a wash so we can figure out where everything is, especially if you haven't traced anything onto your canvas yet. This is gonna be a really helpful tool to use. So I'm gonna get out just a little bit of all these different colors. So my brown, my violet, my raw umber, my violet, my pink, and a little bit of yellow, and I'm just gonna go down. I'm gonna go down here. Okay. And we're gonna go ahead and play with these colors. I'm gonna grab just a little bit of black here. Just put it on the canvas, or I mean on the palette, sorry. And then I'm also gonna grab a little bit of white. Whoa. All right, so let's go ahead and play with some colors. If you haven't already put your traceable on, you can do that now. I would recommend doing it before we put on our first coat of paint so that you can have everything down, and you can go pretty hard with the pencil, not too hard, but you can have it. It doesn't need to be super light because we're going to be doing a wash and you want that pencil to come through the wash. The other option is to do like a brown or gray acrylic marker so that the paint goes over the marker instead of if you have a lot of pencil on your paint or on your canvas, the graphite will actually mix in with your color and it might adjust the color. So I would suggest if you do want something a little bit darker, it would be better to have a marker or like an acrylic marker to do that, or you can take a liner brush and you can put that in by yourself. I would suggest only to do the trunks and lines of the traceable because all of this is going to be just natural as we go. I wouldn't recommend putting all of that in. You totally can if you want to. That's why I put it on the traceable. It's up to you how much of that traceable you want to use. But yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and mix some colors. I'm going to try to get this this first color, this kind of purpley color. So I'm going to take some purple, a tad bit of brown, a little bit of black, and that's going to kind of gray it out. And then I'm going to add just the tiniest bit of white so we can kind of see what color we're working with. That looks really pretty. I know it's still dark, so I'm going to add a little bit more white. And that's really close. I'm probably going to put, actually, yeah, I think that's good for now. It's like a grayish purple, but it does have that brown in there. Make sure you get that brown in there. Whenever you add brown to colors, it tends to darken it while keeping the color, versus when you put black in it, it unsaturates it. It makes it more gray. So that's just kind of a little color theory. Because brown is comprised of your primary colors, versus black is just, it's black, it's gray. Okay, so there's that. We don't need a whole lot of it. And making just a little bit allows you to adjust the color later if it's too dark or light or blue or whatever color. Then I'm going to take a little bit of this color and I'm going to add a little bit of pink to it and a little bit of white to it. Okay. I'm going to add just the slightest bit of yellow to it, just to start that process of being a little bit lighter. And then right next to it, I'm going to add a little bit more of the pink and yellow. And you're going to start getting that a little bit of an orange color. And every time I'm doing this, I'm taking a little bit of the color before and then adding colors to that. So now I'm going to take a little bit of that color and I'm going to add just yellow to it, maybe a slight smidge of pink. Because we want it to stay orange, we don't really want it to be yellow. I'm going to add a little bit more. And it's starting to look a little bit, it's in the same, if I made this all black and white, these last two colors would be the same tone, like the same color. And I want to make sure that it's progressively getting whiter. And that's also why I think that this color, this middle purple, is actually too light. But I think that this is a really good starting place. And again, part of doing this is to make sure that we can get in that first coat. And then we can make adjustments from there. I'm going to go ahead and make this purple a little bit darker. So it's more of a medium purple rather than a light purple. Okay, that's good. All right, so now that I have these four colors, I'm gonna take my one of my small brushes, and I'm gonna figure out how far I need to come down. So this bottom section right here is pretty low, all things considered. So I'm gonna take my lightest color, kind of that orangey color, grab a little bit of water, and I'm just going to put on roughly where this is, just so I know how far to come down. And then if you want, you can go ahead and put in your other little hill right here, because these have very similar colors, so we're going to want to do that roughly the same time. And then right here, as this comes down, there's a little road here. And that's pretty much it. The rest of it can kind of just be put in as we go. If you would like to add your little trees of where everything is, you totally can. Maybe I'll put in this one right here. Let's see. I'm gonna bring up my, it's like almost in the middle. It's practically in the middle. It goes to about half. Most of this painting is the sky. But having these little markers in here, and I'm just barely putting this in, having these markers in here will help you figure out where all your orange and your other colors go. Okay. I'm going to even this out just a little bit and make this flat. All right, so now that we have that, I'm going to take a large brush, get it wet, and this can be a little bit more on the wet side, okay? So one of the things that I like to do with especially paintings that end up being a little bit on the darker side is I like to do a wash of those darker colors. One, so that I can figure out where all my colors are going, but two, to get rid of that stark white background. It's why a lot of people who do dark paintings, they end up starting with a black canvas. And since we're not doing that, we want to get rid of that light color. But one of the reasons why I don't necessarily like doing that is because this bottom part will be so much brighter going on a white canvas than it will be going on a black canvas. So that's one of the reasons why I really like starting with white canvases, even if I'm going to end with a darker canvas, all the bright spots, like for instance the sunset, will be brighter because we put that brightness on a white canvas. Oh, and for those of you who have been with me for the last couple classes, let me know if the angle of my painting is better. I've really tried to make it as close to dead on as I can. And I'm hoping that this will help just the viewing of the classes. I know a lot of people, quite a few people didn't like how tilted it was. So I'm hoping that this is a happy medium for the angle of it. All right. So I don't really care if I can see all of the lines and stuff like that. I'm really trying to just focus on the coloring of it. And I'm going to start mixing into this kind of brownish color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this brownish color right here on the end here. And then once you get in a good amount of it, you can do small brush strokes and blend it in to that top section. And then I just like to go over the whole thing. And now we're going to go into the kind of yellowy purple color, or sorry, the yellowy orange color. It's kind of purpley over here. I'm going to grab a little bit of white to put right here. Just to help lighten it up. Blend it all as much as I can. And there we have our first coat of the sky. right, so now we're going to come in with this purple. And just kind of track where everything is. Again, I'm still putting in just the base coat of things. And most of this isn't seen over here because it's covered, but covered in black. And then I'm gonna do a sort of white, purpley, brown gray. So I'm just taking white and whatever was on my brush, plus some of the purpley gray color. Maybe a tiny bit of black to gray it out. And I'm just gonna fill in this area. And again, this is just to get that stark white off the canvas. We're not saying, oh, this is what the color is going to be. This is exactly what it needs to be. We're going to adjust the color. So get it as close as you can. And then once you get it on the canvas, then you can adjust it and be like, okay, this is not dark enough, or it's too dark, or it needs to be more purple, or, you know, whatever. But we can't really get to that point unless we get at least something on the canvas. And I actually really enjoy this type of stage because it really allows to be, it allows me to be quick with my decisions. It also allows me not to be stuck on trying to make something perfect because I know it's just the first coat. Oops, I just realized this was behind. So this is what we're painting for our next Cobalt class next month. So in case you want to paint an eagle, that's a sneak peek I wasn't planning on doing, but hey, here we are. So yeah. All right. All right, and then I'm going to go into a little bit more of a black and purple. You still got all these purples in here. And I'm just going to put this in here. A lot of people don't like the what we call the ugly stage. A lot of people don't like the ugly stage, but I find a lot of freedom in the ugly stage because you're allowed a different level of freedom in the ugly stage because you're not like, I feel like you're not required for it to look the way you want it to. All right, so believe it or not, this is like a gray purple. It looks gray on camera because my camera kind of adjusts to whatever I'm painting. But yeah. And actually, I think I want this to come over just a little bit more. So this comes over here and then comes over a little bit more. Like that. All right, so I'm gonna rinse out my brush. I'm gonna allow this to dry. And one thing I can tell right now is that I have a little bit more yellow here and I want a little bit more pink. So that's something that I can adjust. If I were to have done this whole thing with the color that I thought was perfect and I put all this paint on there, and then I would have gotten to this point, it all, perfectly blended and all that stuff, and realized that my color was off. It's really hard to put on a second coat when you've worked so hard on the first coat to get it right and blended and get all those crevices of the canvas and textures of the canvas filled in, only to find out that your coloring wasn't what you thought it was. So by doing a thin coat of paint in this stage allows you to adjust your colors to what it gives you a second chance to do your colors without wasting a whole ton of paint. So that's another pro for doing kind of a just quick undercoat type of first coat. It's really helpful and I really enjoy it. So I hopefully you take, if you don't learn anything else from this class, hopefully you at least learn the freedom that comes with doing a first coat, kind of ugly stage type of coat of painting, because it really is, it's really helpful in the development of your painting. Okay, so while this all dries, I'm going to go over some of the other classes going on, whether on YouTube or in my Patreon. I'll show you those, and then we'll get to pre-mixing our next coat of paint, okay? So 2 weeks ago, we did this painting, and I think it came out so beautiful. I love the added sparkles that we did and the bokeh effect. I wish I had a little bit more color in the actual weeds and things that are kind of hanging over, but other than that, I really love it. I love doing bokeh in and of itself, so that these classes are always some of my favorites to do. So this is a free class, so head on over to my page, maybe not right now, but it was done 2 weeks ago, so if you're watching this class live, then it should be the last class in my on my page, on my channel. So feel free to go over there and paint this one as well. It was a lot of fun. And you'll get more practice in blending those backgrounds. Over in my Patreon, there is 2 different tiers for tutorials. There's the magenta tier, which I put out an exclusive tutorial every month for you guys. If you're in this tier, the magenta tier, you also get access to every other Friday tutorial that I've put out for literally all of my Patreon. So this month we ended up doing this bee, and can I say I absolutely love how this turned out. I love the purple undertones, just how colorful it is, and it just screams spring, which we are practically in right now. Yeah, it's spring. I feel like we're pretty much very much into spring. Yeah, so this one, I love how this came out. So if you are all into bees or purple or flowers or anything like that, and you would like to paint this, please either comment down below, I can give you a link, or you can go over to my Facebook or my Patreon or message me or whatever. I will get you the link if you would like it. But yeah, we painted this one earlier this month, and it will forever be available. So even if you're watching this class a year from when it goes live, this class will still be available in my Patreon for you to paint, okay? As all of my classes are. And then a class that we just finished yesterday, the other painting tutorial tier in my Patreon is the Cobalt tier. And the magenta tier is $10 a month, so $10. You also get access to the traceables for the live classes. So you get 2 in 1 For the Cobalt class, it's $20 a month, and you can stay for 1 month, you can stay for multiple months, it's up to you. If you do want to join, I would suggest joining at the beginning of the month so that you get to paint with me weekly. But we go weekly, week by week, and paint a class, and we just finished this one. I absolutely love how it turned out. My camera's going to adjust and make it really, really pink. But the colors in this are just beautiful. This is actually a really pretty teal aqua green. It's making it a little bit more blue in the camera because it just adjusted, but it's like one of my favorite colors. I love how it came out. So if you like doing seascapes, this is actually something that we kind of haven't really done before in terms of the crashing waves, the coloring, and all the texture on all the rocks. I think it came out really good, and it looks pretty realistic, which I'm really proud of. So if you want to come paint this with me, you can join now and start painting, or you can wait until the beginning of the month next week, and you can not only paint this class, the reruns, but then you can also paint what we're painting next week, next month, which you also got a little snippet of what we're painting. We're painting that eagle. But yeah, so that's a lot of fun. And again, you can always become a patron to support the channel, or you can support the channel while getting exclusive tutorials or getting access to traceables. So it's a win-win for all of us. Okay, so hopefully this is dry. It's getting there. Let's go ahead and create these other tones. I'm gonna go ahead and clean up my palette just ever so slightly. I don't want to get rid of all of these colors because I want to have something to reference as I'm creating my next color. Now, something that you will need to do if you are using a glass palette, you'll need to make sure that if your paint is dried on your palette, do not remix your paint on that section. Those dried bits will get mixed into your nice clean paint, and then you'll end up putting clumps of paint, dried paint, on your canvas, and you won't be able to blend very well because you'll have those like pieces like mixed in, which is why I like to clean up my palette before I remix paint, especially if I've done what we've done right now of that, that pre gradient. A lot of times if I'm just pre-doing a color, then I won't necessarily keep this, and I'll just pre-mix a whole new color. But because it's a gradient, we want all those colors pre-mixed. And because we want to adjust our colors now, I want to make sure that I know what I'm adjusting from, because sometimes it looks different on the palette than it does on the canvas. And that's a really important thing, because I can be like, oh, this is like that pink color, but then when I put it on here, it's pretty yellow. So that's just something to keep in mind. So I might grab my red or even my orange. I don't know. I'll have to think about it. But yeah. I'll have to grab some other colors, and we're just going to play with these colors until we think that they're good. But yeah, I'm going to actually start with the yellow because I feel like that was going to be the toughest one to make. So I'm going to grab some red. Actually, I'm just going to grab orange. So if you have an orange on hand, if you don't, you can mix your yellow and your red together. But this orange is going to be really, really vibrant, and I kind of want that vibrant color. So I'm going to grab some white here, a little bit of pink, a little bit of yellow. We're going to mix that together. Got kind of that pinky orange. And I'm going to add just a touch of actual orange to it just to brighten it up. And that was way too much, so I have to add more of the other colors now, which is totally fine. That's why we pre-mix, so we can add. And actually that's fine because I need more of it anyways. Need more yellow. Okay, so that is brighter. I think I'm gonna add just a touch more pink. And this is the color that we're working from. A little bit brighter. And then as we go lighter, I'm gonna add some white and add some yellow. So I'm taking that same color and I'm going to mix some white and yellow in it. It's just for that little tiny bit. Yellow and white. I think I might need to even go lighter. Okay. So there we go. Now I'm going to do this darker color. I think this darker color was perfectly great for it. So I'm going to grab my purple, tiny bit of white, little bit of black, and a little bit of brown. And I'm going to need more than that, so I need more purple. Like I need more paint, because I'm gonna have to do most of this is that purple color. I also need some more white in here. I'm gonna take a little bit more white, more black, more purple, more brown. I'm just gonna mix all these colors together. It's a little bit too vibrant, so I'm going to add a little bit more black to it, and that'll kind of dull it down. Okay. All right, that's pretty good. So now I'm going to make the in-between of these two colors. So I'm going to take some of this and some of this. I'm going to take these two colors and I'm going to mix them together. And you have a perfect mix of that. And I'm going to add a little bit of white. Just to brighten it up ever so slightly. All right. I think this color is a little bit too dark, so I'm going to add a little bit of white and brown to it. All right. So hopefully we have enough paint for this whole section. If I was going straight on the white, then I know that I would need a lot more paint. But we're going on an already pre-painted surface, so we're not going to need as much paint to cover up all of it, because the undertones are going to be the same colors that we're painting. All right, I'm going to grab my large brush, get it a little bit wet, not too much. We don't want it to be as translucent as the first coat. I'm going to start with the top. And that also gives me a good start to whether or not this is going to be a good color. All right, so I'm going to start by just putting on that coat, or that purple, all along the top. Once you go all the way across, I'm going to go ahead and add that medium color. And what I'm going to do is now I'm going to take that middle and I'm just going to go up into that purple. I'm going to mix that together. Get a little bit of water if it's not mixing as well. And then I'm just going to go all the way across. And as I'm viewing this, I'm gonna need a little bit more pink. So I'm noticing that this section right here, I'm feeling needs to be a bit pinker. So I'm gonna take my pink, mix it into that color, and just put on kind of a second coat right here. And kind of just adjust that color a little bit. And as you're moving down, you can start moving into that bright color. again, I'm just doing the same thing that I did last time and blended that in by going up into the color you're blending in. And I'm going to come in with this bright color right here. And then right in the middle here, I'm going to put a little bit of a brighter color. And I'm going to take my, let's see, where's my, I'm going to take my this brush, my texture brush, and I'm going to put just a little bit of that lighter color and keep going in. It's going to mix in, and that's okay. Just kind of keep going in with that little bit of light. All right, now I'm gonna rinse out this brush. I'm gonna take the slightest, like the tiniest bit of white. Make sure that there is barely any white on this. And you're gonna take this color, and you are going to give this starry night a galaxy. I barely have any white, and it's mixing in. Part of this is because it's mixing in with the stuff that I already have. Or I'm gonna rinse off my brush because now I'm pulling in dark stuff. Oop, just And the reason I start down here is because technically this part is going to be covered up. All right, once you've done that, it's very, very subtle. So you don't have to do a whole lot. If you want, you don't even have to do any white, and you can just simply take off some of the paint. Now we're gonna grab our toothbrush or whatever way you want to add your stars. Grab a little bit of white. And you wanna make sure that you have enough water that it flies off your brush, but you don't wanna have so much water that it drips. And likewise, you don't want to have so much paint that it's going to flick and clump. There's a happy balance. So if you want, you can take it and you can give a little bit of a flick right on your palette and see if it comes off nicely. So just give a nice little. I like to do it a little bit further away at first. And then I'll come close and do more a more balanced effect. So right here I'm just doing little tiny spurts where the stuff is. And that gives the illusion that it's a little bit more starry in this area. Maybe there's little clusters of nebula. In the different areas. All right, and mine came out pretty nice. I don't feel like I need to go in and add any stars, but this is the moment that if you would like to go in and add stars, I'll show you how to do it. I'm gonna go in with the same mixture that I just created, that kind of watered down bit. I'm going to put the end of my handle of a small brush, and I'm just going to go in and put a little dot. And you can put in bigger ones, more obvious ones. Like that. Maybe there's a big star right in the middle here. Oops, just dropped my brush. All right, so that's how you would do that. And I go back into the paint almost every single time, or else it's not gonna be as vibrantly white the next time. But that is essentially how you do your Starry Night. Let's go ahead and move on to the other colors here. I'm going to rinse out my brush. And I need to recreate some of this purpley color because I've run out. And I still have to do kind of the mountain range a little bit. I'm just going to do a little bit of this. I think I need a little bit more brown. It's too purple. Too purpley. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and add this. And as I'm coming by the sunset, I'm going to make it just a little bit lighter. And the ones over here can be a little bit darker because it's furthest away from the sun. I'm going to rinse this off, and while this is still wet, I'm just going to come back in here put a slightly orangey tint on this. Alright, so there's that. Let's go ahead and do the, I believe it's water, but I guess we'll, we can pretend that it's water. And this part right here is very, very bright, so I'm just going to put in some of that bright color. Come in with maybe some of that pink. And then it kind of goes back into the purple color. And then it goes back into the pink color down here. And it doesn't have to be the same exact thing as the reference. I'm gonna play around with that. The brightest part a little bit. Feeling like it needs to be a little bit more orange. All right, I think that is a good, that's a good little lake area. All right. Now that we have that, let's go ahead and put in some of our snow. I'm going to, I think that's pretty much all of this color I'm gonna need, and this is all dried anyway, so I'm just gonna kind of clear off my space a little bit. Tell you one thing, being able to clear off my space is like one of my favorite things that I'm able to do now that I have a palette like this, because I used to not be able to do this, and it's so nice. Okay, so I'm just going to do that, and I'm just going to put this over here. All right, I am loving how this is coming out. Let's go ahead and do our snow. So I've noticed with this, it needs to be much darker. It's very bright, it will need to be darker. And if you don't want to do snow, then you can just do like kind of like a really dark brown if you wanted to do it. But I really like the snow. I suppose I could have saved this painting for like a winter painting, but it was mostly the purple galaxy that I wanted to paint. But learning how to paint snow is also fun. It's just spring, whatever. Let's go ahead and mix together our snow color and our road color. So I'm gonna have this white here, and I'm going to add black, tiny bit of purple, tiny bit of brown. And this is about what color it is that we put. So I'm gonna add even more black and even more of these other two colors. So just really darken up that color. And it really seems like super dark, but like, I don't know. It's really hard to tell when you're putting a color that's lighter on the palette, but it's gonna be darker on the canvas. It's really hard to tell. So what I suggest is finding where my thing went. Okay, there it is. I'm gonna grab my filbert brush. And I'm gonna grab some of this color and I'm gonna put it on. I'm gonna put it on and I'm gonna see how it fits everywhere. All right, that's actually really close. I think I'm gonna go less purple. So because I was just doing a test, I'm not going super thick. And it allows me to just figure out where I'm at color-wise. All right, so I think the color is pretty close, but I'm gonna go a tad bit lighter and a little bit more gray. So I'm just gonna add some black and white to it. And I'm gonna mix that right now so I can not forget that. So I'm gonna go a little bit whiter and a little bit more black. Okay, as I put this up here, I think that's a lot closer. I can visualize that. So I'm just gonna keep this close and allow that to dry. And I'm gonna make this color. So this one actually has a good deal of purple in it. So I'm gonna do this black, purple, brown, and a little bit of white. It's almost got a little bit of pink in it, probably because it has some sort of filter on it, but I'm gonna add some of this pink to it. And maybe a little bit more purple. I think I added just a little bit too much brown to it. That's pretty close to what it is right now. I think I'm gonna go a tad bit darker and add a little bit of pink to it because I really like the pink, element to it. I think it's pretty. So I'm gonna add pink and then I need to get out more black. A little bit of black. kind of change the tone of it to maybe more of like a pinky mauve color. I think that'll probably work. Let's put it on there and see. All right, and notice that I am keeping my brush strokes in the direction of the road, just to kind of help that. I'm gonna have this go all the way down around the corner. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and put this other color of my new coat of white, the snow, not actual white, but the snow white. Not the princess, the white snow, there we go. It's not actually white, it's like a purpley gray. Maybe we're gonna make a slightly lighter purple with some white, just so we can make certain parts of this a little bit brighter. We're gonna put in this back here. I'm gonna kind of place this over here in a more like stippling way to start the process of just the dirty snow. And I'm using the road color. I'm using the dark road color to create some of this. To create this kind of dirty color snowed. Oops, apologies. That was my my chair. And I'm going to take the same color. This is kind of a little bit more textured with all the rocks. I'm going to go ahead and do the underside of this. Because out of sight, out of mind, I will forget about it. I'm going to just use this for a little bit of the shadow. Wherever there's shadow, I'm just going to add a little bit of this darker color in the snow. And it can just kind of blend in. I'm going to go in for a second coat of this dark color back here. Alright, so this is not dry, so I need to wait for that to dry in order to put that in. But I'm going to take some of this purple and just add a little bit of black to it. And I'm going to add a little bit of just the texture up here, all the rocks. I'm going to grab a large fan brush and I'm just going to put some of this on randomly just to add a little bit of texture and rocks. All right, real quick, I'm just gonna put in the where my trees are so I can kind of figure out where all the shadows are gonna be. And I'm just gonna put in very, very lightly. And again, it doesn't have to be exactly like the reference. You can pick and choose where things are. I'm kind of gonna just put the bottoms of where I want these things to be. So this is one, this is one. And the rest are kind of back here. All right, that's kind of the general place of where everything is, of where I want things. So now that I kind of have my placements, I'm gonna go in with a little bit more of this shadow color, which is gonna be just that, the lighter color of the snow mixed in with the road color. And I'm just going to very gently add in some shadow color underneath where these trees are going to be. And then anywhere else where you feel like it should be, maybe just kind of sporadic throughout it. And yeah. Just adding little bits and pieces to the snow. I'm going to go ahead and add a second coat to the side over here that I wasn't able to do before. All right. So now we're gonna go in and do the fun part, which is all of our trees. So grab your favorite tree brush and we are just gonna have some fun. Something to note is that when you are doing this, there's a couple different ways that you can do it. You can, for the brushes, for the bristles that are, or for the trees that are kind of like going up, I'm going to keep my brush perpendicular, and you can go up. Let me try to. So like I'm doing it right here because most of this is black, but you can use your brush to create little tree trunks, okay? So you can play on a separate piece of paper or however you want to do it. I'm gonna start at the top and I'm just going to lay down my brush kind of up. So I'm placing it down almost practically perpendicular, and I'm pressing so that the base of my brush goes up. Now that might be a new technique for you because maybe you're used to pressing down, which is probably the more common technique that even I do. But for some trees, the bristles kind of go up a little bit, and then as they get bigger, they start to come down a bit. I'm going to try to be careful not to cover up all of my sunset. So then you're just gonna do that again. If you want to practice on a different tree, like one that's kind of further off, maybe not the center of attention, you can always start with a different one. But here I kind of just rock back and forth. Go in. start at the top and then I pivot up. Going in for more. And eventually I flip it over and start going down. And you're just gonna do that over and over again until you have a nice little forest. And we're going to start this tree the same way. You can eventually flip it over, start pointing them down. I'm just going to do it over and over again. Just the same process. I kind of go up with it vertical, and then I switch it to horizontal, and I do a couple individual ones for the tops of the tree. And then I start creating my branches from there. And eventually I start working my way down. And for the places over here, I'm just dabbing it all black. And even for my trees, even if it's solid black, I still give it texture by dabbing to keep the consistency between all the trees, because that paint will dry in the same way that you put it on. I'm going to add a couple things here. maybe little pieces of grass poking through. All right. I'm just adding more colors down here on the bottom. I'm going to take a little bit of black in this purple and do kind of like a line here on the edge. You can come back and add different textures. The snow is all different colors. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and do the other side now. Again, starting with the top. I'm going to start with the ones that are kind of further in the back. A little bit more black. All right, so that's that part. Remember that not all trees look the same, and sometimes they have branches that are kind of out of whack and going in all different directions. So it's okay if you have a couple that are like feel like they're too long, or you know, different aspects of nature, right? They're all kind of just taking on their own shape. All right, and that's pretty much it. I'm gonna add a little bit of shadow with that purpley color to this one right here. And then obviously any other place that you feel like needs to be a little bit darker, you can add more purple. All right, I think that is pretty much it. If you want to use a liner brush and add any other little details, you can. But I think I'm good. I'm going to leave mine the way it is. Thank you so much for joining me. This one was a lot of fun. I love the colors. Sometimes I surprise myself in terms of like what colors we actually use. Like, who would have thought or said that this snow color is purple, right? It's not something that you really think about because we know snow color to be what color? White. But a lot of times when we're painting, because the environment and the atmosphere affect the actual colors of what we paint, sometimes we don't think about that. And so we'll paint it white and then it'll be so bright, you're like, wait, that doesn't fit the environment, and you don't really know why. So sometimes it's really fun to do paintings like this where the lighting is just really cool and different because it stretches your ability to be able to look at a color and actually analyze what color you're looking at versus what color you think you know it to be, which is white, but in reality we just painted purple snow. And we mixed brown and purple together. Like, who would have thought that those two colors would make such a pretty painting? But yeah, thank you so much for joining me. I really love how this one turned out, and I can't wait to see how your guys' turns out. I have a free Facebook community where you can share your painting with me and everybody else who took this class. It's Samantha Anderson. Just look up on Facebook under groups, Samantha Anderson Artist Community, and you should find it fairly easy. I will also link down below right now. I will link down below the link for that if you would like to just click the link. It's also all over my Facebook, as well as in the event pages if you RSVP to those. But yeah, I'm looking forward to our next class. I hope you'll join me. But yeah, we'll see you then, same time, same place, and have a great rest of your evening. Bye, guys.